What was that?
I hear more piano than an organ on this thing.
Yeah, it's got the piano on it already.
You do?
Yeah, we just didn't have the organ. But if you could, really the only place I need is on the turns, the intro in the middle after the first chorus, and then that very first verse. Everything else just kind of pad like you were just doing.
Okay.
It'll be in the back of the mix, but the first verse it'll be featured. You and the accordion. You want to try one?
Yeah, let's try it.
I think anybody who lives in America has been influenced by American music in one way, form, fashion, or another, whether they like it or not.
Everybody shares and is enlightened by the things that they enjoy.
When I was about 20, my parents gave me my big break and allowed me to move to New York City. And I lived there for 11 years, but that's where I started my band.
I started singing when I was about 7 or 8 years old. It was mariachi, it was accordion music.
When I first started playing, I was really influenced by what I was watching on television.
They're either a Beatles fan or they're an Elvis fan.
But once, I heard about the Beatles, well, it was all over. If it were not for the Beatles, I wouldn't be doing this.
That and like 50s.
I use music extensively, like almost every day. I read whenever I'm reading it to suck me in even deeper and clear out my brain. I'll put on melodies that I really think pertain to what I'm reading.
My parents bought me and my brother one guitar.
My situation is very unique in that my family is a bunch of family of musicians on both sides of on my mom's side and on my dad's side.
What really attracted me to rock and roll was the sense of freedom.
Having that little bit of a Latin or Hispanic or island, whatever you call it, having that, we love that feel.
I think when I started thinking about why I wanted to do a film or to do this album, the thing that really got to me was, Nashville was such a great experience for me, but it also showed me that there was such a different world out there. And growing up in South Texas, I grew up speaking English first, and I didn't really know I was different. I never knew I was different until I went to Nashville.
I had studied as a kid classical guitar. The music really attracted me, music of Spain attracted me. And I had studied at the Royal Academy of Music after seeing Andres Segovia.
We were exposed to a lot of the island feels.
Then things kind of like, I started hearing some other things here, some English rock, some blues, jazz, banda. And then by my teens, it was basically full-fledged Tejano music, like Tex-Mex.
And I had never experienced racism or discrimination of any kind, and I had spoken Spanish. My family had spoken Spanish. When my parents wanted to say things that the kids didn't understand, they spoke Spanish, but every other time it was always English. So none of the kids really learned to speak Spanish. So when I went to Nashville, people came up to me and said, what kind of color are you, or what are you, or I really didn't even know how to answer that question, and I never knew I was different until then. I guess when I looked in the mirror, I didn't see Mexican American or Latino. I never even knew that those words existed.
When we came to the United States and I started listening to even British artists that were playing the blues, which is the foundation of rock and roll, R&B, I've come to realize that music was born from the same African cultural influence.
You see something, or you hear something, or you read something that motivates you to think, and then it comes out in your art.
There's only 12 notes in the whole world. It's making those notes move you in some way. It either makes you happy or sad or in love or something. It brings emotions out in you that, using the same notes that everybody else is using in a different way.
Music is music, and it's like especially country music, you have 3 chords and the truth. You've heard that phrase before. And it really is true because people want to be told a story. They want to laugh. They want to cry. And so for me, as a drummer, it's always about that story and having that story expressed and staying out of the way and trying to help create that Mona Lisa or that Blue Boy or whatever that painting is.
The definition of music to me is whenever you have a melody that is very calming, exciting, stimulating, whatever, but at the same time you have the lyric that paints a picture, creates an emotion, makes you just absolutely feel good or want to cry, whatever that song's about. When you have all of those things put together, to me, that's great music.
From genre to genre, it's always the same. A good song is a good song. Good lyrics, good structure, good melody, you know. Those are the core essentials.
You know, there's only, what, 7 notes or, 11, I don't know, 7 whole notes. But it's just what you do with them. And, I write songs, so I really appreciate a great songwriter.
Music it's a language. Music is not a, people say, well, who's the fastest guitar, who is the, fastest drummer, whatever, bass player. To me, it's not how fast you are. To me, it's what you are saying with your music.
They say time can erase all life's mistakes, hoping that they're right. Left her crying at home, all alone, one too many times. What goes around comes around. She's gone and I'm finding out. She's got one hell of a memory. Can't forget who I used to be. No matter what.
There's a lot of obstacles in this business, It's a wonder anything ever gets out and becomes a hit, because almost everything you do after you've done it and it's been successful, you find out that the chances of it being successful or even getting out there were a zillion to one.
When I first started my career, people kept, saying it's kind of a natural transition for you to try to cross over in the country, and I swear to you that the biggest reason why I didn't try it is I was too afraid to fail in it. And I was intimidated by the fact of, I just thought it was too big of a stage for me to try to go after. And I think someday I'll probably end up regretting it, but that's just the most honest answer I can give you.
The biggest obstacle, moving to Nashville was just taking that big step.
Did I experience discrimination in my career? I think right at first I did, and I remember seeing and feeling it.
Been a very small few, just a little handful of Hispanic country artists in country music. So I thought I had a lot of label interest. So I was like, let me take the step. There's an awesome opportunity for me to come out and just try to help bridge that gap and bring Hispanic artists back to country music again.
The thing that surprised me about Nashville is when you grew up in Texas, I was playing honky tonks for, golly, since I was probably 15 years old, and I would go to all over the place. And there was a little bit of, sometimes I'd go to a club and they'd say, is this a Tejano night or is this Spanish night, when they had the name on the marquee. But it was very few and far between. And even then, it wasn't that they wouldn't come either way. They just were asking a matter-of-fact question.
Yeah, well, when I first moved to Texas, back to my native Texas, after I was living in New York, I started my band, and I couldn't get a gig. I had to establish myself and build my fan base, but I needed to start performing, and that was pretty hard because I'm still booking myself after, 12 years living in Austin. And my obstacle there was, you're not honky-tonk enough, you're not country enough, or you're a mixed bag, and we really can't pinpoint where that audience is going to be at our venue.
When the Tornado started out, our first record, Who Are You Thinking Of When You're Making Love, that was a Tom Paul Glaser song.
You know, we found that years earlier in Houston, Texas on 45. But when the Tornadoes went on to CMT Country Music, they took us off 3 weeks later. They said, and you got a bunch of Mexicans playing accordion in there. That's all the band was, you know. Actually, there was only 2 white guys in the band, 3 white guys, and there was 8 of us, or 5 Mexicans.
When I was living in New York City, it was hard to find work as Rodriguez because I was doing commercials and I was going after film parts and modeling. And when they see Patricia Rodriguez, the agents would tell, or the people that hired the models or the actors, casting agents would tell my agent, she doesn't look Mexican enough, so she's not going to get the job. So my sister, who also lived in New York and she's an actress, she said, you're going to have to probably change your name. And I was totally against that. I said, I want my own name. She says, well, it's good to have a stage name in this business because it could be quite cruel. So why don't you use your middle name? It's very European sounding and you'll probably get more work. It sounds French, it could be, and I thought, Patricia Vaughan, wow, Stevie Ray Vaughan, that's a good omen, although it's spelled differently. I said, I would love that. And it helped me survive New York in more ways than one. Never thought to change it back because it helped me survive.
When I was in Miami, right before I left Miami, my friend, my Cuban friends used to tell me, look, you're Cuban. You're never going to play with these English bands. You're some guy living in Miami.
Their hopes are being shut down by their own people.
It was like, for example, any time that we heard that a certain band like Yes or Led Zeppelin, they were rehearsing in some warehouse down the road, to me that was like magic. It was like these guys came from outer space and, you know, people who live in a different time and place than we do. You know, they're not on this, breathing the same air. So you have this myth about it, you know. And I knew that I had to leave a certain environment, such as Miami, in order to pursue my rock and roll dream.
When I started my career in, born in Texas, then you go to Nashville, and Nashville was such an amazing journey for me, and I still walk that journey. I go there all the time, and they gave me so much opportunity and knowledge. For a while there, I was angry at how things went, because you think it's the executives and the marketing people that are on you so much about, how do we hide that you're Hispanic? How do we overcome all these things? How do we hide? Maybe we take a thing where there's no picture and we can hide who you are, an essence of who you are, and that's a very uncomfortable place to be. But as I got older and I started thinking about these things, I realized that those people have signed many Latinos to try to break into the country world. They want it, they believe in it. They're afraid of what the world's going to think, and I think it's a relevant question. How will the world receive a Hispanic country singer?
From day one, it's hard this is a tough town, and in Nashville, it's not that they hate and I'm being blunt here when I say it, the color of anybody's skin. It's so much harder when you're a Hispanic country artist to make it in this town, and you have to have something. And to me, I've always gravitated to it because, man, I've always been searching for that. Ever since even when I met you, I was like, man, you sing better than anybody I've ever heard. And looking at you, you're Hispanic, but I don't see Hispanic. I just see a great singer.
Nashville has always been Nashville, and it's very hard to get inside of it no matter who you are. You come there, you have to prove yourself. So it just takes a little bit of time of proving yourself, and pretty soon, if you have a real true understanding of your music and it happens to be inside of that pocket, the country style of pocket, then you'll do fine. You'll get in there.
This whole industry, and I don't think it's just this, I think it's the music industry, can be very cruel. 1 minute you're really on top of the world, and the next minute you be gone. And you'll be in the segment of where are they now?
In reality, you could think, well, look what these Hispanic artists went through, but in reality, every artist goes through this in some fashion or form, because the media is cruel. The media will tell you you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not the right color, you're not the right size, you're not the right anything.
We never had any confrontations or whatever you say. Only when we went to eat, I was refused service in Waco and Plainview. I was refused service or gas coming back from the, yeah. You know, stop for gas, you run out of gas, you stop for gas, and he said, and you will pay for gas, and I'm sorry, but we're out of gas. You know, but only in that manner would we face resistance, you know. But it's for our music now.
I went on a hunt to the Northwest Territories, and you know, me and my dad were the only Hispanic guys there, and you know, the majority of the guys were from New York and Virginia, you know, and so we're there talking with a guy, and you know, he was like, you know, talking politics and talking guns and talking all types of, you know, good old boy things, you know, and he tells me, you know, can I ask you a question? It's like, yeah, sure. He says, you're not like the Mexicans that cut my yard. You're different. And I tell him, yeah, I think I am a little different. And he says, but you know, you're educated on the issues. And I think that to a certain degree, I think that the stereotype of the Hispanic is the guy that works in the fields. He's the day laborer, you know. And I don't think that's the case. And my best explanation to him was this. I said, you know, the grandkids of those guys cutting your yards will be just like me. And it's going to take time. But the one thing I can tell you, and I'm very proud of this, that for the most part, Hispanics assimilate. We get with the program. You know, it may take us a little bit, but we're proud to be Americans.
In Sugar Land, I didn't know why we always went to this certain restaurant all the time called La Negrita. Vamos a la Negrita, where it's hot sausage and beef and all that. I love that, you know. But that's the only place we would go because they wouldn't let the Mexicanos go in all the other restaurants, you know. One particular, my dad, I was always the one, I don't know if I was my dad's favorite, but I was always the one with my dad when we went to, cuando iba al pueblo, you know, to kind of watch my dad for my mom or whatever. But I went with him and said, man, I'm gonna get you a hamburger. So he parked the car and I stayed in the car. I'm gonna get you a hamburger. So he walked off, and right as he going in the door, they pushed him out. There are no Mexicans in here. So me, I couldn't get you, I can't buy you a hamburger. I didn't want that stinking hamburger anyway, Dad.
You know what I've learned is, in my 15 years here, I can't even believe I'm saying that, in Nashville, is that my graduating class, the people that I moved to town with, the majority of these people are not here. They have not survived not only the changes in the industry, but just the requirements are really thick skin. And I think that if you're in the entertainment industry, you have to fall in love with rejection. It has to motivate you. So there's a lot of speed bumps that came along the way for me, a lot of doors that were slammed in my face, and that motivates me because I knew there was a place for me in this industry. I had something to say, and you have to fight for it. And I think you have to be very persistent, and you have to fuel that persistence with passion. And if you have those two things, you are golden. There'll be a lot of this, but as long as you know that and you accept that, then you can just enjoy the ride.
So do the accordion on both of them?
I think so.
Okay.
It'll flow a lot
Okay,
nicer.
cool. Okay.
You're gonna play on that, Brandon, if you want.
Yo creo valió la pena todo lo que has pasado, todo lo que has vivido y lo que tuve que esperar. Si fueron muchos días, si fueron muchos años, a mí eso ya no me importa. Ahora sí, te amo de verdad. Vida, vida mía. Gracias, te doy gracias.
Well, probably the biggest difference between us and somebody that sings country music is the blue eyes, the brown eyes. Other than that, I don't know if there's much of a difference. You know, The accordion, which is the primary instrument in our music, is German. It has a long history. You know, on my mom's side, I have Spanish blood, and it actually became it used to be Spain, you know. Texas used to belong, part of it used to belong to Spain, and then, you know, it became Texas, you know, and it was its own republic, and then it became part of the U.S. So, and at one time it was Mexico, so, you know, I kind of say that we didn't cross the border crossed us.
I learned to play the castanets from my mother. She was a nurse by day and had a flamenco dress in her armoire with castanets. She explained to me our ancestry is from Spain and Mexico, and the castanets are from Andalusia, southern Spain. So I always wanted to incorporate that when I started writing my own music. All my albums are bilingual because I'm proud of my heritage. I'm proud to be from San Antonio. Most of it in English, maybe three or four songs in Spanish, because I wanted to preserve that musical heritage of my childhood in San Antonio and the music that I heard, which was a mixed bag. The artists that have come out of my hometown, Rosie Flores, Charlie Sexton, Steve Earle, Doug Somm, Flacco, what an array of music.
What I learned from my dad, which was, he was one of the main pioneers of the accordion as far as conjunto is concerned. So I caught on and started playing like him, you know. At that time I was a young kid. Then as I grew older, I started listening to the radio of country music, blues. I was, you know, I changed channels all the time, you know, just tuning in on different kinds of music.
You know, we're Mexican Americans, and my dad is very bohemian, which means he's always takes a guitar to a party. So you know, we're from South Texas, so there's lots of campfires. There's lots of outdoor things where he takes the guitar and there's music and accordion and guitar, and it's like a jam session. So growing up, that's what we did.
Accent, so nothing happens overnight. A big one right there.
Nothing happens overnight.
So we have a big intro back. Maybe a.
Okay, so let's not build. Let's just let Lonnie lead us back. So.
Yeah, I think that it's a little more simple, but that's what I feel. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. All right, Rick, you ready?
Down and the walls come up. We once were lovers that couldn't get enough, but lately there's no talking or touching at all. You face the window and I face the wall, and nothing happens overnight. Everything's still the same in the morning light, but no matter how hard I have to try, I ain't ever giving up till we get it right. I hope and pray someday we might, but nothing happens overnight. I'm not the man that I used to be. You're not the woman who fell in love with me.
Love's a one-way street, but it takes two. I still wanna go down that long road with you. And nothing happens overnight. Everything's still the same in the morning light. But no matter how hard I have to try, I ain't never giving up till we get it right. I hope and pray someday we might. Nothing happens overnight. We can turn us around, places think together. It may take a while, but we got forever, and nothing happens overnight. Everything's still the same in the morning light, but no matter how hard I have to try, I ain't never giving up till we get it right. I hope and pray someday we might. Nothing happens overnight. I'm just concerned about my accent, so it's kind of worrying about that. And I'm not really singing the song because I'm too concerned with my accent.
Nah, it's all right. We talk like that.
I think it's cool that, you know, we're mixing up, you know, the San Antonio feel and the Nashville.
There's similarities, and songwriting is one of them. You know, from country and regional Mexican, and even the Tejano and even the Latin pop and all that. There's similarities, songwriting. There's some great tunes. They're always writing about a great message, a great story.
I would have to say immediately the storytelling. This, you know, it's the corridos. When you hear a ranchera and then you hear a beer drinking song, they're talking about the same things. They lost somebody, or, you know, or they're gonna lose somebody, or they're planning to, you know, change their life and get a new one, you know. So it's all about the story.
The similarities of the two genres, as far as, you know, the Nashville cats and the Conjunto Tex-Mex, Tejano guys, the elements are almost all the same. You know, for the exception of the lead instruments, which is going to be the accordion on the Tejano side, which could be accordion or saxophone or horns, like the brass sections, or they could be on the country side, the fiddle, the lead guitar, and maybe piano sometimes.
You have the fiddles in both of them. You have the guitars. You have bass in the country. You have the guitarrón in Hispanic music.
The coolness about it, all of those things, is that you can interchange them.
Living in the farm and learning how to drive tractors and things like that, I mean, you just couldn't help but have the country music involved, you know, because sometimes in some of the farm areas we lived, that's all that was, you know, the radios that you could reach were country.
Another similarity between the regional Mex and the country, well, I mean, the audiences at their core values are, you know, very similar. You know, they're ranch people, farm people, very simple, humble, generous people at the end of the day.
Obviously, we look a little different. You know, we're a little bit more browner, but musically, and probably to a certain degree, I think our accent is a little bit influenced by the fact that we do speak Spanish occasionally. So that changes when we speak English. It leaks its way in there, you know. But it's something that I think is cool. It's a unique culture that I'm very proud of.
I think that kind of translates. An accordionist who was playing conjunto can make the transition easier to rock and country. And those who are very blessed, like Steve Jordan, they cross over into jazz and blues and things like that.
You know, listen to George Strait, being from Hondo, right outside of San Antonio. I mean, he was King George. And like I said, I mean, you name it, I was a huge La Mafia fan. I loved La Mafia. They were just, you know, and I listened to him a lot, Emilio a lot. I listened to Spanish music a lot. And I didn't understand half the stuff they were saying, but I just knew that it was awesome. It was just something I just loved.
So when I moved to Nashville, I had to learn to speak the dialect of country music. So I went and I bought Tammy Wynette's greatest hits and Merle Haggard's greatest hits and George Jones on cassette. And I just wanted to learn how to speak that language and learn how to emulate that drum style. So here I am, this crazy looking guy, and it's like, whoa, he's not allowed in the Grand Ole Opry, but I've played the Grand Ole Opry with Pam Tillis and Vince Gill, and it was probably, they let me on stage because I knew how to speak that language.
My dad's a singer. My dad's, I think, a big pioneer in Tejano music. He's the first Tejano musician, or if not the first, one of the first, that came out with a cowboy hat and boots. Before they used to dress with tuxedos and you know, it was the big band era when he came out, and he kind of, you know, came out as a Western guy, a cowboy, because, you know, he was raised on a ranch and that was what he knew.
Never been the kind of man to back down from a good time. Always push the limits when I can. That's why I came in here tonight, to get rowdy with my friends. But looking at you, girl, I don't want this night to end. I ain't ready to go, gotta hear one more country song. I need one more dance so I can pull you close in my arms. I got room for one more heartache, and you look like the perfect mistake. So let's have a round, party up and get down and get loud. This is going, and I wanna go. So take my keys and take my heart, 'cause I gotta celebrate finding love tonight. With one more kiss neath that neon light. I ain't ready to go, gotta hear one more country song. I need one more dance so I can pull you close in my arms. I got room for one more heartache, and you look like the perfect mistake. So let's have a round, party up and get down and get loud. I got room for one more heartache, and you look like the perfect mistake. So let's have a round, party up, get down and get loud. Yeah, I got room for one more heartache, and you look like the perfect mistake. So let's have a round, party up and get down and get loud. Yeah.
Pam Tillis in the house.
Hey, now, once you come on, we'll set up for the we'll set up for the sing right there and then hit record on the other one.
You know, I misunderstand about what it was. Sorry to pull the different song on you.
No, this song was
But
beautiful.
good.
I listened to it till 2 in the morning, honestly.
Yeah.
I love it. It's perfect.
Yay, good. Oh, thank you.
Right, welcome.
We got a lot of cameras.
Oh, okay. They're not rolling now, are they? Hey, Rick, I just got one little question. Favor. I just need to step away from the phone at whatever we do. At 12:15.
You want us to put yours now?
No.
Yeah. And then how long do you step out?
What's that?
How long do you have to step out?
Probably 5-7 minutes.
Oh, really? Okay,
Yeah.
that'll be fine.
And then
Yeah.
I'll be here.
Pillow as you pull me closer. Every time that I kiss you, all the ways that I touch you, it's just me trying to tell you over and over. All that you ever need is all the woman I wanna be, baby. I wanna run with you, dream with you, fly with you, deeper than you've been before. Where do I begin to prove it's true? Did you say oh te quiero, te amo? Oh, so many ways to say I love you.
Well, I'd have to say primarily it would be country, not bluegrass, but country. Later on, bluegrass was something that really intrigued me. Maybe it's because of the similarities in the beats or the tempos. But country for me was the very first thing, because my dad was always intrigued by steel guitars and 12-string guitars and string instruments. My dad's a bajo saxo player, but I would always see him listening to country music, and so I think that just kind of creeped in somewhere. And I didn't attack that early, but later on in my career, after learning how to play piano, I started seeing the similarities in how the instrument could play those. So that's got a little kind of blues country thing in there. But if you're going to do, you could do the same melody. And that's your playing like trumpets, like Mexican trumpets. It's the same song, but the accordion is kind of beat trumpets. It can be fiddles. It can be a lot of things. So.
snapshot. Believe me, many men have tried. She's a sweet addiction that'll bring you to your knees. And she'll take you south of the border, make you do some crazy things. Margarita made me do it. There was really nothing to it. She could really pour it on with one look from her green eyes. She had me dancing on the bar, played a mean air guitar, partied all night long. There was nothing to it. Margarita made me do it. An unforgettable night that I can't remember, but I'm the life of the party when we are together. But Jose Cuervo, he's her man, so don't believe her lying lips. In the morning she'll be gone. Come on, you know the script. Margarita made me do it. There was really nothing to it. She could really pour it on with one look from her green eyes. She had me dancing on the bar, playing a mean air guitar, partied all night long. There was nothing to it. Margarita made me do it. Margarita made me do it. There was really nothing to it. She could really pour it on with one look from her green eyes. She had me dancing on the bar, playing a mean air guitar, partied all night long. There was nothing to it. Margarita made me do it. Yeah, she 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 made me do it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it.
And then, okay.
And that's pretty much every time the chorus comes, you're doing the same part, and then every time the in the intros, the turns, and the out, it's the same thing. And every time you hear that thing coming, bum, 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 it does it a lot. And then on the answers, when it goes da 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 da, you just kind of stay out of it, and then you come back in for the kicks. Dun, da, dun, doo.
Okay.
But that's the right part, just like that. Dum, ba, dum, ba. Okay, I'm gonna shut it up. You want me to do it some more, or are you okay?
I'll be okay here.
Okay.
Well, I think the Spanish language is really more accessible to American English-speaking people, Americans particularly, because it's very melodic. It's a very melodic language.
They grew up listening to country music. They grew up listening to Tejano, and that all melded together.
Country fused in with a little Hispanic, Mexican flair. A jalapeno meets cornbread kind of thing, you know, bam.
It brings that culture together.
Any major differences? Well, of course, language. You know, maybe some miscommunications in certain areas, you know, sometimes, but I personally feel there's a lot of similarities. I mean, we've had several prior artists, you know, of Hispanic origin, you know, go to Nashville and try to make a name for themselves. Some have. You know, some have sustained a career, some did, some tried, some didn't. You know, it's always a trial and error thing.
As far as seeing any any problems as far as in country. I've heard of, you know, that there's been some things that have happened, or, you know, in the country world, and as far as on Hispanics trying to get involved in doing country, but I'm a little new to the country. You know, I'm just starting to record some country tracks, and you know, I like it. I think it's something, being that I grew up, you know, in the farm, in the country myself, that it's something that I've also lived. It's not just, you know, me being from the city and I'm gonna do country now. It's something that I grew up with.
If I wasn't hearing some kind of polka, you know, it was around. I mean, you can't grow up in Central South Texas without hearing it. And then also around here, we got a lot of singer-songwriters. You know, we're not too far away from like Luckenbach and, you know, Hill Country area.
It's also like the virtuoso-ness of the musicians.
The marriage of the German instruments.
Accordion, yeah, the accordion.
The German accordions, you know, that came over, and when the Spanish started playing it, I mean, you know, it gave it their own vibe. So that was a whole marriage of music. So those things are all very interesting to us, and we love them. We love what comes out of it.
You know, it's almost like bluegrass and jazz. Those similar to the Latin music. You know, the players are really, really great when they, you know.
And the music that I write, because it's a hybrid, it's not on purpose. Maybe this country song will go to Nashville, maybe it's the Spanish song. No, it's just what I feel that comes out of me that I want to, that feels good to me.
No, it's just whatever they want, whatever they feel, that's they're free to do that.
On a track that I just did for the John Pardee record for Capitol, we put accordion on it, and it just has a little bit of a little backbeat to it. It reminds me a little bit of a Tejano thing, and it's just really cool. And it's weird, we turned it in, everybody's like, that's cool, what is that? And I'm going, it's basically Spanish music. I mean, it's cool, it feels good. And to me, when it comes to similarities, I think if you listen to the radio the last 10 years, I guarantee you almost on every country record, there's one song that has a Spanish guitar, which up here they call it a gut string guitar, which is a classical guitar.
That kind of thing.
I mean, think about the Garth Brooks song, Two Pina Coladas. That ain't a Spanish beat. I mean, you know, it's got the, I mean, it's just right to the T, and you listen to that track, and it's got some horns arrangement on it. The Toby Keith song, Beer for My Horses, he had a horn arrangement for it. The song about going down to Mexico he had a horn arrangement with an accordion on it. And to me, I see in country music more and more, they're listening to more of the Spanish market and more of the Tejano market, and they're borrowing and taking some of their music, and they're going, you know what? I think it's cool to have an accordion.
My dad, well, he had his own band and had the accordion, and so I just kind of went with what we were doing at the time, you know. Because I listened to country music, but like I said, we were always recording Spanish music and doing a different thing.
And it's almost like a salad. I guess I use food, and it's like lettuce, tomatoes, and what are you gonna add? I mean, there's only romaine, and there's a Greek salad and like a Mediterranean salad. But what is it really? It's lettuce and tomatoes and something else, and cottage cheese and stuff. So that's what music is. It's like it's like you're like at a buffet table, and it's like, well, I want this at this time and this at that time. But it meshes so well because it's all good and it all tastes good.
Everybody likes Mexican food and Latina women, you know. So music's no different.
You know, so it's where you grow up, you know. We grew up in this music, you know. My wife is Spanish, you know. I love enchiladas. I love the Mexican, you know, the whole trip, you know.
But I always liked country because I remember we would do, you know, I would play. Eventually I went to the accordion, which is the instrument I play now, but when I would play, you know, all Spanish music, and then there'd be a certain amount of time, 30 minutes or an hour, that I would play some country with the guitar and, you know, some other stuff and mix it up a little. But I always liked country. It just, I guess it was, you know, just not something that was brought up to me as far as doing first. It was the Spanish music, but I knew it was always something I liked to do.
Well, I think the marriage of those musics to us is something we love. You know, we've had, you know, for a long time, like Howard said, you know, I think that Spanish is a language of love, and it's a melodic, very singable, something you really enjoy singing in. We always look for songs, or you know, or try to write songs that have the combination of a great feeling song, you know. Just the feel of a song is always really important. You mentioned Beautiful Body. Having that little bit of whatever it is, Latin or Hispanic or island, whatever you call it, having that, we love that feel.
And it's got the rhythms, and it's just, you sit there and you listen to it and you go, man, that was on a Tejano record back 10 years or 20 years ago. You know, it's weird. They don't understand it up here, but that's what y'all have been doing down in Texas for so long.
Siempre estuve buscando nieve bajo el sol y no supe ni cuándo un deseo me atrapó y me llevó a la perdición. Sus ojos tan bellos.
We've always been kind of driven to fuse a couple of styles of music together and see how they come along. You know, country rock was really kind of what we started playing originally. That was a fusion really of two different kinds of music, although they weren't, you know, completely dissimilar. But Latin music, Hispanic music, and the stuff we do, it all fits really, really well.
I gotta say this, the only time I was ever made aware that I was a Latino playing rock music was by Latinos. Never by the Europeans, the English, never. As a matter of fact, but then, you know, if you look at England, once you visit there, it's a melting pot, you know. They just really cared that I was the real deal, that I could actually play, you know. And that I was cool to hang with. That's about it. They really didn't care where I came from. As a matter of fact, I gotta give credit to Ozzy for being the band leader who has had in his band more Latinos.
When we started with the Mexican Revolution, we were doing Chicago. We were doing all this, you know, all the English songs, you know. We went to open up for Los Alegres de Terán in California. We went to open up for them. And you know, Los Alegres de Terán, I don't know if you know Los Alegres de Terán, but they were nothing but corridos. And people like this packed, you know. So we opened up and we came in with ta-na-na-na-na, ta-na-na-na-na, you know, we thought we were doing great. And people said, get off. That's the first time they told me, only time that people told me to get off stage. And I had to get off stage because they went and cut my speakers. Yeah, the people went to cut my speakers so I couldn't even perform. But needless to say, they messed up the Alegres de Terán because they were going to use my PA. So in a way, that's one of the few times or only time that the Mexicanos told me to get off stage.
I think the biggest obstacle for me in my career was going into Mexico, because it was kind of the opposite. I was raised here in the US, born and raised. You know, my great-grandmother was born in Yorktown, Texas. So I didn't know much Spanish. That's the truth. I mean, we spoke okay, tortillas and, you know, the basic thing. But I was raised in U.S. school speaking English. And I'll never forget, you know, in first grade, I actually got spanked for saying a Spanish word, and by a coach. And so when I went to Mexico, man, I was real intimidated. I had a hit song that was doing really well, but I didn't even know what I was singing. I was just saying the words, but I didn't quite understand it. So when I first started going, you know, the reporters can be really cruel, and they kind of, you know, they needle you and they ask you double-ended questions to try to get you to mess up. And I did, and they laughed at me and they ridiculed me. But over the years, I've become very, very proficient in Spanish because I keep going. And that's why I have that strong belief, you know, I think that I tell, you know, Mexican people that come over here, I said, you need to learn English. It's like, well, what for? I said, well, when I went to Mexico, they didn't accommodate to my English. I had to learn the language. So if you're coming into this country, learn the language.
I think the real thing that was most evident when we started shooting this film, especially when we talked to people that were involved more in rock and roll, was that rock is very accepting. That genre of music, they don't really look at the color of skin, or they just care how well you play.
I didn't face a cultural pull because I was doing rock and roll. I wasn't playing salsa, I wasn't playing Latin jazz, I wasn't doing cumbias or cha-cha-chas or any kind of mambo or anything like that. We were doing flat out rock and roll, hard rock. And so it wasn't a big, hard rock was pretty universal in scope. It had no cultural dynamic whatsoever. It was all, I just happened to be Chicano singing rock and roll music.
And just a few years ago, the San Antonio Bureau said, hey man, we want you to make you a national, worldwide ambassador for San Antonio because you got kept on sewing this worldwide and take it off, an ambassador. And Little Act came back on and said, he's not bilingual. I said, I can speak a little Polish, a little German, and a little Spanish, and a little English. Is that bilingual? I said, no. We want a Spanish guy that can speak real. Then he said the word Mexican. I'll never forget that.
In music, we were playing rock and roll, like I was playing rock and roll. So we were playing 11th Street, Charlie's Playhouse, Victor Grill, the Doris Miller Auditorium, and the blacks were accept our music, you know. We were out coming into the auditorium to play the Doris Miller Auditorium for the black people, you know. And this black girl was there, Ruben Rambo, is he colored? No, you know, but they would accept my music, you know. We played for a lot of black functions. We played for a lot of university sororities, you know, when they had all their parties. We were playing, you know, I was doing all the English, you know, so we were playing a lot of that music, you know.
Yeah, that's what on the top it sounds like another
same thing.
beat, but yeah. Because it happens at the end of that bar.
Well,
I mean, that's the way I heard it that time. It's really just beat 4 of that bar.
Okay, gotcha.
Like those 2 8s are just pickups.
I got you. I should have noticed that when I got to that point, I should have known.
Yeah, up here it works out, but when you jump back, I think it's really just 2 bars.
Right, I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. You know, if you slide out,
Oh, so we just did the first part of each one.
Morenita de mi vida, tú me estás volviendo loco con tu risa encantadora, estimulas mis antojos, morenita de mi vida, yo me muero por besarte muy apasionadamente y poder enamorarte. Morenita de mi vida, dueña de todos mis sueños, cuando tú no estás conmigo, yo te echo mucho menos.
consentida. Pídeme lo que tú quieras y serás muy complacida.
I think we're more similar than people might think. And I think that, you know, through time and over time, I think those barriers will keep being knocked down, and then it just becomes about the music, and that's it.
You know, once people like a song, then it's just demand after that.
So my modus operandi is to just surround myself with like-minded people, talented people, and try to make great music every day.
You know, you start listening to the people talking and all the struggles that everybody has gone through that did this film, and the trials that we all go through to conquer our dreams. And we're all in this together. There is no difference whether black, Hispanic, white, doesn't matter where you come from. We're all going to go through the same struggles. You know, the world says you're never good enough, smart enough, you're not the right size, color, shape, whatever it may be. Music, you know, knocks down all those imperfections.
Music is the person. It's the person. It comes from within.
Music is unilateral, man.
Music it's a language.
Music is just, it's its own living, it being, it.
Thing that brings people together.
Music is a way of expressing who you are. Music is an expression.
Music is life.
And it allows you to leave yourself for a moment.
It's hard to explain. It's like love. You know, how do you describe love? Music is the same thing.
And it's not about singing a bunch of notes. It's singing from your heart, singing a message.
The green music is something you're born with.
Music just, it lets you be anything you want to be. You can fly.
Some fun, share some smiles, have some laughs sitting in the sun. Life ain't so bad, no reason to be sad. Let the music play. Have a round, scream out loud, and dance the night away. Never know what tomorrow's gonna bring. Close your eyes, let your heart sing. La vida es buena, la vida es buena, la vida es buena. You shake your hips, give me a kiss, and tell me that you love me. I hold you tight, make you feel alright, ain't no siesta. Kick your shoes off, get the party on, let's have a fiesta. Porque la vida es buena. La vida es buena. Brilla la playa, todos de ni un yija, una vez y otra vez, que tenemos otro día más para celebrar. Acérquense un poquito más, no te quedes ahí atrás. Esta vida se te dio para disfrutar y todos juntos vamos a cantar. La vida